about Picasso. So I've made this poster. Here is Picasso. Picasso, the wonderful wizard of art. He's a multimillionaire. He's ageless. He's world famous. He's adored by millions. When I was in art school, Picasso was the man. Everyone wanted to be like Picasso. He was the wonderful wizard of art. He had everything. At least it appeared that way. There's thousands of books have been written about Picasso, and I probably mean it. There are articles and books, there's been thousands of them. One of the most famous commodity artists in the world. When he died, he left an estate of over $255 million, and that was 1973. So at today's prices, that's probably $1 billion. Hugely successful money-wise. A commodity artist. Of all the books written about Picasso, this is the one I like best. I've read a lot of them, and most of them are fluff pieces, and I just don't like that stuff. This is by John Berger. It's called Success and Failure of Picasso. It was written it was published in 1965. And as you can see, I've had it and made all my notes and things in it for years. But an interesting thing about this, Picasso himself, in his older age, said this was one of his. He said this is one of the best books written about him. He liked this one of the best because it was so honest. He knew what was happening to him. Now, I'm going to read you something from here to tell you a little about this wonderful wizard of art that we thought was the greatest. Picasso is the king. Everything and everybody revolve around him. His whim is law. No word of criticism is ever heard. There's a great deal of talk, but very little serious discussion. Picasso behaves and is treated like a child who has to be protected. It is perfectly in order to like one picture better than the other, but it is inconceivable that anyone should suggest that any of his paintings is a total failure. The horror of all this is that it is a life without reality. Picasso has nothing of his own to work on. He takes up themes of other painters' pictures, Delacroix, Velázquez, and Manet. Outside his studio is no more real. In his house, he is surrounded by acolytes and flatterers. Outside his house, he is benign God who brings luck to all those who are living in the same town or dining in the same restaurant. But who among them takes him seriously? He is liked, perhaps even loved, because he is a benefactor. He brings honor and prosperity. He gives away autographs and drawings and a chance of having spoken to him. So complete is the loss of reality, and so frenetic are the efforts of those around him to keep him feeling and being great, that Picasso himself is no longer believed. A man who has trusted his own sensations as he has done knows the extent to which things have gone. He is desperate. The last thing he says to a poet friend, "You live a poet's life, and I a convict's." Do you see? The wonderful wizard of art, if we remove the curtain from behind the curtain, we have quite a different picture. Here is Picasso, and he died in 1973. He had his first wife, Olga, She had a son, Paolo. Paolo had 2 children, Pablo and Marina. His mistress, Francois, she had 2 children by him, Paloma and Claude. He had another mistress, Maria Therese. She had a daughter named Maya. His last wife was Jacqueline. Now, if this was a perfect life that we had for Picasso, if he was the wonderful Wizard of Oz, why would these happen? Olga died in 1955 after physically tormenting most of these other women that were around Picasso, plus him. Followed him around everywhere and cursed him out and just made his life miserable. His son Paolo died in 1975 of alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver. He was a drunk. He took drugs and he drank, and he was a worthless human being. His son Paolo, which is Picasso's grandson, committed suicide in 1973, shortly after Picasso died. Francois, she finally got away, broke away, and married Jonas Salk, and her 2 children are doing okay today. Maria Therese, his first mistress, or one of his first mistresses, who had Maya, she committed suicide, hung herself. In 1977, a couple years after he died, she hung herself. Francois' last wife, she shot herself in 1986. Now, does that sound like this person is a great, wonderful wizard of art, and we should all emulate his life? I mean, we have to realize what happens to artists when they lose their soul and they get caught up in the money. This is what happens. I'm going to read you one more passage from this book. The Success and Failure of Picasso. What happens to an artist's gifts may well reveal in a coded and ciphered way what is happening to his contemporaries. The fate of Van Gogh was a partial fate of millions, and so it is with Picasso. The waste of his genius or the frustration of his gifts should be a fact of great significance to us. Our debt to him and his failures, if we understand them properly, should be enormous. And that's what I'm saying. Because of Picasso and the way he lived, it was an example of a pure art soul that got totally corrupted by money and all the other things we talked about last week. All these things that happen to an artist happened to Picasso. And so I'm saying there's an alternative to that. What Picasso had is not worth having when you look behind the curtain. So I'm out of time. So email me, go to my website. I'll see you next week. I'll give you an alternative to this.